Hello, players who can't do accents but refuse to let that stop them.
And DMs that had to retcon an entire 2.5 months of sessions.
Welcome back to Table Talk. I'm Maddie Conway.
And I'm Robert Lopez.
I was about to say, what are we talking about today? But I feel the need to acknowledge that we have a weird energy in this studio.
It's definitely super high pitched, super active. This is the time
But
of
we
night.
finished our finals.
We did finish our finals.
Robert is
I'm
officially done with college.
done with college until I decide to go back for my master's. But I'm done with undergrad for at least a long time. So,
Woo.
yep. Today we are going to be doing a draft style video where we talk about don't touch the fucking buttons.
Which one is it?
No.
Which one
Just
is it?
read the thing, man. She's trying to hit the fucking the do. I turned it down. Joke's on
wait.
you.
It's draft time.
Oh my god.
It's funny.
Anyways,
Well, you made it not funny.
we're doing a draft video where we're picking like our favorite and our least favorite moments from the last two campaigns that we've played. We are picking 2 good and 2 bad from the first campaign and 1 good and 1 bad from the campaign we're currently playing, just because it hasn't been going on nearly as long. So yeah, we're just gonna have fun with this one, try and keep it a little more low-key and talk about some of the fucking train wrecks and also some of the greatest moments from either side of the table.
Yeah, so starting with positives. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. So my first positive for God, there's so many different ways to do this. To do the first campaign was the creation, introduction, and usage of Nidhogg, the giant lizard.
Ooh.
Specifically, if I have to pick a moment, it's when you fucked up and killed yourself, released concentration on a spell, and then everybody at the table had the collective oh shit moment
Yeah.
when they realized that the thing that was still at like half health and max power came back.
I'm going to jump in here. My number one draft pick was also that moment where I killed myself as Magnolia.
Positive.
That was
your
my
number one?
number one positive, which sounds really bad, but it was just a really cool narrative moment, and I think that's one of those things where it's like,
She almost got stuck in somebody else's head.
oh
Shit's
my
crazy.
god, that was so scary.
Yeah, there was a dice roll.
Um,
Yeah, she almost got stuck in the BBEG's head.
Yeah, that would have been, and we would have been just fully sharing a body, which would have been so interesting. Honestly, that would be a fun spin-off, like one shot, just to see what happens, because I'm so curious.
Yep.
But it was a really cool story moment, and I think that's one of those things where like failures as a character can like also definitely come into play, because like I really thought about I didn't know whether to put that as number one good or number one bad, but
It's kind of a mixed bag, truly. But like that for me, oh my god. Doing the math on that, and like the whole time you were like, do I just kill myself? Do I
Yeah.
try and bring it back? Do I kill myself? What do I do? Nidhogg's gone. She's banished.
which, for the record, because we've explained it in other episodes, this was a moment. It's like a really, really, really big fight. Like it's not the finale fight, but it's like damn near close.
Yeah, it was like the
And-
fight before it was like the penultimate.
Yeah.
Right before the final fight.
It was like the mid-series finale.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a thing, but whatever.
No, I mean it is.
Um,
Invincible just had one.
Yeah, it's like that kind of situation. And it was, so the bad guy was there. The bad guy had just gone down, and I was trying to save the bad guy, who was a character named Keloy. And we're fighting this fucking lizard, Nidhogg, and it is just kicking our ass like it's a massive dragon. We are like just a little party. And we were struggling, and I cast Banishment on Nidhogg and somehow succeeded on that because I
Of course,
used
the
Banishment
lizard
all the
rolled
time.
poorly.
And I had a wild magic search. It basically said I could come back, reincarnate if I die within the next so ever minutes. And I had very low hit points, and I was like running out of spell slots. And my brain was like, the best way to get these spell slots back is if I'm just in a new body. So we're going to roll the risks. We're going to take it. And so she kills herself in the middle of this giant fight, completely disregarding and not remembering that Banishment is a concentration spell. So there's
Mhm.
this whole story moment. She has like a moment where she connects with like the world serpent, whose like heart resides in her.
Jesus moment.
Yeah, like basically just like talking to God for a little bit, and everyone on the like in the battlefield is like, did she just kill herself? Pardon me? And then comes back, and everyone's like there's just a energy settled across the table because like a big thing just happened. And then
Mhm.
Robert gets to go, so Nidhogg comes back, and everyone went, what? no, how?
Yeah.
And
Concentration was
yeah,
dropped, man.
and it was like not even one that we could argue. It was like, yeah, that's very clearly. And then
Came back, played her turn, ate the BBG, and fucking dipped,
she
man.
eats him. So the whole reason that she killed herself out the window. But God, it was such a cool story moment.
Yep.
And it kicked off the entire second half of the campaign, which was now
trying to chase him down,
trying to find a way to bring the fucking villain back while he's currently in the stomach of a dragon.
Yep.
Which resulted in killing another god.
Swindling another god out of it, like the god of swindle.
The amount of gods we killed.
Just like the god of swindleness.
Yeah, he got
Theros got swindled.
I got him.
That shit was wild.
I beat him.
That shit was nutty, man. Yeah, that whole thing was crazy. I think for my side of it, it was just, I loved playing that character. I'll have to look up the stat block one of these days and then shout them out on the podcast. I literally just looked up Nidhogg from God of War Ragnarok, and minor spoilers for anybody that haven't played the game, but it's been on forever. It got Game of the Year. Go fucking play it. It's amazing. I have a controller that is God of War Ragnarok style. I also had Madison make me a dice box with their logo on the box. Like,
so super sick fucking box.
Game.
I'm so proud of it.
I talked about it in a previous episode. That's like, that game is where the inspiration, not Ragnarok, but the one before it, just God of War, which is kind of like a hard, not a hard reboot, but kind of like a soft reset of the whole series beforehand. That's what kicked off my interest in doing that sort of Norse mythology, multiverse kind of thing in the first place. And Nidhogg, I always knew I wanted to roll Nidhogg in because the World Serpent was the thing, the Yggdrasil was the thing, and I've explained this previously in a different video, but just to kind of briefly explain it here, the way that the Yggdrasil works is it's basically just this tree that sets out. Also, if anybody has watched the new Loki season on Marvel, you kind of have a vague idea of what it is. But it's basically just this tree that sits out in the middle of nothingness, or sometimes in the middle of everything, depending on which version of it you're looking at, and it runs straight through each of the 9 realms in traditional Norse mythology. Basically, the only thing that is left after every time Ragnarok happens is this tree. The first 2 people are always born from the tree, which then turns into God, which then turns into the rest of the world on all the 9 realms, and then the cycle repeats, and so on and so forth. And it's basically just a giant fucking tree. So I was like, cool, what if people could travel using the tree, which is an idea that came directly from Ragnarok. But then, again, if you know anything about Norse mythology, what comes with the Yggdrasil is a creature called Nidhogg, which is basically this giant reptilian serpent, kind of half dragon, half thing. It's just a dragon. It's a dragon without wings, and it basically is only there to gnaw at the root. Yeah, big lizard. Its only purpose is to gnaw at the roots of the Yggdrasil to keep it from basically overgrowing. It's basically like it's just there to prune the hedges, to keep the Yggdrasil from sort of sprouting out where it's not meant to be. So, fast forward to the actual campaign itself. Yggdrasil is basically thrown in the middle of nothing. Its roots are crossing throughout the realms. They're on every different realm you could possibly imagine throughout the multiverse, and Nidhogg is still doing what Nidhogg does best, which is trying to chew at the roots, keep it from spreading. The issue is now there are too many roots in too many places, so Nidhogg is spread thin. There is a particularly large root in a city called Fairhaven. The players, several of them are from there. They go there, there's a fight, they attack the root on a mission from a queen, and then, surprise, surprise, a pissed off lizard shows up and is like, hey guys, not literally, she didn't speak fucking any language.
I would have loved if she spoke. If she just
did speak. She speak primordial, but no one else spoke that in the party.
The one-time language would have mattered.
She's like a fucking celestial, man. Like she's basically like a demigod, or like a more of a force than a god itself. But she shows up fighting the party, immediately goes for Kiloi, who's Loki. At first, it's like, cool, are we fighting her? Are we fighting Loki? Are we fighting the plants? What are we doing? What's the end goal?
My character immediately was like, we're fighting Kiloi. He was fighting on our side. He was helping us, but there was
no way that they were going to be able to beat her, or beat Nidhogg. Because I looked up the stat block, and it was like a CR 20-25 monster with like crazy broken abilities, and I was like, sick. This is going to be a fun fight.
And then we had other
Nidhogg and the plants and Kiloi, and then like it's like, cool, how do I help them? Well, I'm going to send in the one guy that's like on the same level as Nidhogg, if not a little bit lower, being Kiloi. And so he's like, I'm going to fight with the heroes for once. I mean, his whole goal was to try and kidnap Magnolia and kill Nidhogg. It was like a 2-for-1 special. But if he could only get one, he was going to take one.
Yeah.
He almost got away with it too, motherfucker. He almost had it, but then he didn't. That was like story of his life. He almost had it, and then the party did something, and he didn't. But anyways,
specifically one party member.
Nidhogg is fucking up everybody that steps to her, and she ends up going for Kiloi. And at this point, Magnolia, who has a lot of really important story points, is like deeply attached to this character and is like, I need him for answers. He's got answers. He knows how to solve the riddle. He's got the keys to the puzzle. He knows what the puzzle is to begin with. So, like, we need to keep him alive long enough to ask him questions.
And another party member's like,
Yeah,
nah.
and then there was another party member who was like, "Nah, it's on site. This man has ruined my whole life," which he did. He did, and that's actually one of my other negative points on here. Is the sort of direct result of this particular fight. But fucking Magnolia's like, "Cool. How do I keep the fucking lizard from eating Keloy?" And banishes the lizard.
Yeah,
And then
that was such a cool moment. That in itself probably could have been a moment because it
Yeah.
was such a like everyone at the table was like no one. I didn't think it was gonna work. I said
And
I
I
was
was
like,
so
this
fucking
is not
pissed,
gonna
man,
work.
because she was so fun to play. She had so many cool abilities. She fits story wise. It was like the element of nature coming in, like the primordialness of the whole thing, like kind of nature versus man, that sort of deal. And then she blips out, and then there's a high story point. Everything else that Madison explained. She kills herself. Nidhogg comes back, and I'm like, cool. What's the one thing? I even rolls the wisdom saving throw. I was like, what is she gonna do? Low Keloy, she's in a fit of rage because Keloy was whooping her ass with magical items.
Oh yeah,
Or are we going for the motherfucker that just banished me? She rolled like a 3.
that
and
was
it
such
was
a
like
scary roll.
it was
to sit
like
by.
cool. Because I mean, in that moment, it was like whoever she's going for is gonna die.
Yeah,
Like if I'm focusing all of her multi attacks and legendary actions on one person, that person is dead.
yeah,
But it was like, you know what? Keloy's down. Might as well fucking eat him anyways. He's a
Yeah.
pain in my ass. He's been a pain in my ass since ever.
yeah,
And so she goes for him and then blips out.
yeah. It was.
She goes for him, hops back in the tree, and then disappears.
That was such a cool fight. It was definitely like one looking back where it was so awesome because in the moment it felt like failure.
Yeah.
That entire fight felt like failure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what made it, I guess, feel like
It
such a
was
win for
just-
me is just talking about all of that background that went into it, like
Yeah.
of her being there. Because it was the first time she'd ever made an appearance in the campaign, and I mean, from day one, I planned on using her. I just didn't know when I wanted to use her, and then like that was like the perfect opportunity to like bring her into the fold.
Yeah,
And then she had a really cool moment.
Point. It was definitely a high point.
Yep, for sure, for sure.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 on the positive one was probably the boss fight with Keloy at the very end of the campaign. Just again, sort of designing.
God, that was one of the most disheartening fights.
Designing a fun character or having a breakthrough
Ugh.
on a fucking PC stat block was just so fulfilling and rewarding. I've talked about this in a previous episode where we talk about how to build like good villains and how to do stat blocks and that kind of thing. And Keloy was a god, and his whole thing was that he was like the ultimate shapeshifter. And I had like an impossible time trying to come up with hit points and AC and movement speed and sight. And I finally got through all that, and then I was like, well, fuck, what spells do I give this guy? He can do literally everything.
He does everything.
And see, my thought at first was like, why don't I make him a Chronomancer? But we had already had a BBG Chronomancer at the end of the first campaign,
Yeah.
or first section of the campaign. So I was like, well, fuck, I can't do that. And then I don't write anything. We get to the fight, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to give him stuff on the fly. And then I, like, stumbled upon this really cool idea right before we rolled for initiative, and I was like, his whole thing is, like, masquerading as other people and turning into beings
Yeah.
and, like, memorizing what other people do and then doing it better than they do it because he's a god. So what if his whole fucking combat style is just repeating the moves that he sees other people do, specifically the party, which he spent a long time watching?
Yeah.
So then I have this fucking PC who's got a really high AC and really high hit points, and it's fun to roleplay because everybody hates him, whose whole thing is being able to use the party against themselves. And that was like cherry on top, fuck you.
It was.
And it just felt so
Oh.
satisfying because once they put it together,
Oh.
they were like, is he using our spells?
Yes.
Because somebody hit him with fucking disintegrate,
It
so
was-
I was like,
No, because me and
Okay.
another spellcaster in our party were slinging disintegrate. Like,
I got 2 uses of disintegrate out of that fight, man. And normally that's like that's like a one-use thing.
yeah, it was. I remember the scariest moment of that fight for me personally, and there were like a bunch. Like, it was very like climactic. It was a lot of like.
This is a really intense fight.
And it was like fucked up because it was like he's gonna look at you while he kills your party member that you know that like he knows that you care a lot about and is gonna like make a joke about it. Like, it was like deeply personal. It was like this
Yeah.
is like dirty fighting.
Definitely
it was
the most hateable villain I think
it
I've
was
ever made.
like I'm spitting on you and like biting you while I'm fighting. It is like nasty, dirty fighting. And there was a moment where I had a wild magic surge and I'd cast like magical darkness around me and I was like, oh motherfucker. And then you're nodding because you know this moment. And it was fucking terrifying as a player because he has all these teleportation spells because also my character uses a fuck
Yeah,
ton of
they're
teleportation.
all teleporting. The two mages are like teleporting a shit ton across the table, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Cool, man. That's
Well, that's
just like one
her
in the
whole
bank."
shtick is that she's like tied to the end. She can make these doors. Like I didn't even
Mhm.
take any like teleportation spells because I just had so many abilities
Yeah.
that let me teleport as a character and just
Mhm.
like as a person. So I was like teleporting all the time. So I'm like stuck in the magical darkness and I can't see anything. And then suddenly Robert goes, okay, cool. Roll a perception check. And I did. And I got pretty good on it. Like I got like a 20 something. And he was like, okay, you see a little sliver of light and you know the familiarity of the spell Dimension Door. And that just meant, cool. So I know the motherfucker is right behind me. And it was like at the
Mhm.
end of his turn, he did that.
Yep.
And no one else knows where he is. And because it's like a big
He
space
was-
and there were several places to hide, and just like knowing and leaving in the end of a turn being like, cool, the bad guy who wants you specifically like fucked up. Like there's a personal vendetta with everyone in the party, but like deeply
It's out
personal.
for you in particular.
It felt like it sometimes. And it
Yeah.
was
It
sometimes.
was very like boogeyman-y in that last fight, and I had
Yeah.
so much fun with it.
That was such a scary moment of like the person who's trying to kill you is right behind you and you
Mhm.
cannot see them, and also no one else in your party can because it's magical darkness and none of you
Mhm.
can see through it. And it ended up coming in clutch because one other player could
Yep.
and like took like a random thing to like allow them to see through magical darkness.
Mhm.
And
Ended up boxing him in the magical darkness. It was wild.
but that was such like a visceral like scary moment at the table.
Mhm.
That was one of the freakiest. Ugh, fuck that.
Yep. it
Fuck
was
that
fun.
so much.
And so I can move to my negatives then, or do you want to do your positives?
I was about to say
figure
we should
could-
still have another positive, or are we splitting
Well,
them
I
into
feel
two?
like it would split them into two.
Okay.
Just top
okay.
into
So that
negatives
just
and then
changes
we'll
my
switch
order
over
a
to you.
little bit.
Yep.
One of my best ones was kind of like Magnolia's history and
Mm.
like figuring that out because it was something that Magnolia's character
I
backstory.
spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to write that in like the most appropriate and satisfying way.
It was really good. It was a
Mhm.
character I kind of wrote her backstory as kind of a throwaway way back when. Like going on what
It
feels
certainly
like
came
3
into
years
play.
ago. Yeah, and it was just like a throwaway backstory. It was like cool. I'm like used fucking fantasy name generator, came up with like a mom and dad name and a brother, and was like wrote that down. It was like I knew I wanted her to come from like a noble-ish background, but like doesn't use it.
Yeah.
So I was like a high noble family from like I didn't even have a city. Like Robert gave me the city because I was like, you can
I was
choose.
just like, what? I mean, truly, I just started Googling. I was like, fantasy settings. And
Yeah.
then Fairhaven Eberron came up. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool.
So I high noble family from Fairhaven. She doesn't really talk to him. She didn't really fit in because she's like a wild magic sorcerer, and they're like a high noble family. So they probably wanted her to be like a mage, and she was like
like a
more
wizard.
interested in being like a circus performer and like kind of living that life of like entertainment and stuff. And so I like wrote in the backstory. I was like, she ran away from home, like hasn't been back in like a couple hundred years.
Yeah.
I wrote that. I was like, there's no reason for me to come up with a backstory. I like wrote away family because I was like, I don't really want to deal with like her having a family or a connection. And I also like wrote down, I was like, she doesn't know where her powers come from and she doesn't have a lot of interest in learning where her powers came from. And oh, how that changed. So the entire like first campaign, or like the first like half of the campaign when we were playing back in Harlexton, we don't really dig into that at all. And I wasn't expecting to. And then towards the end, we start to get kind of like little inklings because, oh, well, you find out that her magic is like working really, really well with the inn. And actually, she's able to make doors to it, which is crazy because because she was just told, hey, that's not normal. And then she's like, huh, that's odd. That's inconsequential.
It's fun.
And then she gets a magical item that allows her to teleport, and she's like, "Cool, it's a pretty flower." And then towards the end, she starts to kind of get an inkling when they go and are like in the heart of the serpent, and she's like, the flower starts like growing through her body and into the ground,
And
and
then
it's
she
like
does that not once, but twice.
twice. Yeah, that was a exhausting.
Yeah, that was a smarter, not harder moment for me, you know?
Yeah, it was
There were easier
bad.
ways to go about that. We certainly picked the more difficult one.
Yeah, specifically, I said, "Can I vibe check the area?"
Which that is a phrase / check that has continued into this campaign as well. Can I just fill out the vibes of the situation? Like, how's the room feeling, you know?
It's a valid question.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you just gotta vibe check. I
Figuring
think
out
that
the
they
difference
should-
between an insight check and a perception check and an investigation check, like knowing when to use them, is fucking infuriating.
So you vibe check,
Yep,
and
so you
it's
vibe
whichever
check.
one that you have the highest plus to.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
So she ends up kind of like getting an inkling there that maybe she's directly connected to the serpent, and then the second half of the campaign starts, and oh boy, do we end up digging into family history by
Yep.
force, and then you find out that it is like literally the inn itself, and like the entire like the villain and like part of his motivations is he was in love with like one of her ancestors, and he's trying to find a way to
Mhm.
bring her back. And oh, there's a familial connection for you. And also, I'm gonna burn down Fairhaven,
Yep.
which is where you're from, and I'm also going to like root through your family's home, like ancestral home, looking for things and like killing your family specifically.
This is might be fucked up to say, but I think that was one of my favorite choices role playing as Keloy, like to make. Because
It
in my
was-
mind,
it
I was
was
like, how do I
fucked.
kick off the second campaign? And I was like, well, the primary BBG behind the whole one has basically made like 0 appearances.
Yeah, we didn't know
It was
anything about
multiple
him.
characters behind the scenes, never really revealed. Nobody ever made the appropriate checks. It would have been really high to notice that something was off. And so I was like, fuck it, we'll start it with a bang then. And in my mind, the way that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, cool, he's made all of these preparations throughout campaign 1. He has watched, he has learned, he has taken notes. He's finally got a target. And he's a little fucking screwy up top, but he's
Mhm.
got a target. And I'll be damned if he's not going to go for it, because it's the most direction
Yeah.
he's had in centuries.
Yeah, and it was
He went for it.
It was a hell of a way to start a campaign. Literally, like you just meet the other characters, and then suddenly your home is being burned. Your family is being killed deliberately in front of you, and then a fucking scary ass figure grabs you and goes, "Come home," and says your like full birth name that is not the name that you go by anymore. And then disappears, and you find out in that process also he's using the same magic as you, and you've never seen anyone else use that magic. And then you're like, cool, okay, something's fucky here. And then you like
awry.
it was such an interesting thing of like playing a character who originally had no desire to like learn about like where things were coming from, and then to find out that it was like the thing that she was the most involved in, and how like deep and like intrinsic it was. It was really cool to have such a personal connection also to like the person that you're fighting.
Yeah, it makes it so much more visceral when you're role playing in a combat encounter, or just even in a campaign when you have like a personal attachment to the thing that you're actively fighting against.
Yeah,
You know,
'cause it
as
was like-
opposed to
it was like-
just a camp of goblins.
yeah, and it was like cool. This is someone who has like been involved in my family's history, and
Hater
like
number 1, dude,
truly hater number one from the fucking beginning.
from the start.
Like
From
literally,
the start.
and then you look back at like
From
the
her
creation of
fucking
Magnolia.
conception,
Literally,
he was on deck, man.
literally, it was like she was created to spite him a little bit. Like
No,
looking
fully,
back,
not even a little bit.
fully,
Like, that was,
she is like a just her existence is a fuck you to him, and he's
Half
like,
of the
I have beef with an infant.
half of the motivation of the decision to split his heart from his body was to be like, you're never gonna get it.
Yeah,
You're never gonna get. I would rather off myself in this moment. Number 1, because it's just the right thing to do. But also, number 2, fuck you, Dad.
yeah, fuck you, Dad. And then
Have
you
fun.
know
go,
what I'm gonna do?
Have fun. Go trashing your fucking ex-lover's home.
Yeah, now I'm gonna put it in the last remaining person of like the one person that you were in love with.
Yeah. And I think even though it didn't really appear this way in the story, the only person he ever truly felt a connection to in the end was Magnolia in a weird fucked up way.
Yeah.
It was like, this is the last vestige of the ancestors of the person that I love the most that kicked off this whole thing, that's tortured me for thousands of years, and now my only way through to my goal is to kill this bitch
Yeah.
and to basically stick her in a house.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's
She's
like
the
fucked up.
engine, and I just got to turn her into an engine.
Yeah.
And then I just got to take the wheel and forget it ever
And then
happened.
also look into the face of like someone who looks like the person that I was in love with and is like the direct descendant of, and
Yeah.
be like, so sorry, I gotta bring your great grandma back. Bye, bitch.
Yeah,
You're going in a
sorry,
box.
We're trying to figure out. Yeah, there's too many.
like
many
we could
things I
make
gotta
another
do.
one of you.
There was a few times where I considered making him like a father, like the
Yeah.
actual father, or like a more direct like lineage. And I think in my mind there was always some kind of a I don't know. There was a thought that I had about halfway through where I really considered, just because, I'm the writer of the story, I
Yeah.
make up the canon of the world, that he was the father of your grandmother, who then, of course, then gets passed
Yeah.
down to you, because it was great-grandmother that he was in love with in the first place. But I don't know. I toyed around with it. I never really set it in stone. It could be, it couldn't be. I never really
Yeah.
dig that far into
I'll say
lineage.
it was kept vague throughout the whole campaign because there were
Yeah,
a
'cause
couple
everyone was
jokes
like,
that we
"Is
would
that
make,
his-
and we
it-
were
it-
like,
Y'all are related.
and-
Y'all are
yeah,
related."
There were a lot of jokes made about like, is that your like fucking grandpa? Who is
Mhm.
that? Is he like what's
And it was just
happening
like
here?
an element that I felt like I didn't really want to put a finger to.
I think
you
it
know?
was fun not having it. I think it was like vague enough and interesting enough, especially because you made some certain choices with saying who her family was
Mhm.
that I'm not happy about. I would like to put this out here. I'm going to share this story. This honestly probably should go in my top worst moments.
Okay.
I might just end up making this one of my worst moments
Okay.
and skip ahead here.
What is it? Fucking one of your
Yes.
right.
So
Let's save it, because we do need to stay on track. What's your next positive?
that was my positive.
You don't have like another one for
We
this?
had 2 positives for the old campaign and then one for the
What
new
was your
one.
second one?
That was my second one, Magnolia. Like
thought
the backstory.
I thought your first one was the backstory.
No, the first one was killing myself.
Oh, right.
That's why I
'cause
said I'm
we
gonna
kinda
interrupt, 'cause we
intermingled
drafted
that.
the
Right,
same
right,
top
right.
pick.
No, I see what you're saying.
So I am allowed to segue into this.
Yeah, no, I'm fucking stupid. Go ahead.
So, the way that we introduced Magnolia, which honestly probably could have been in my top picks, it was like up there for top ones.
Mm-hmm.
I
Wild
said
character introduction.
I said I would love for my introduction to be, because this character was like she like slept around and she was like very like hedonistic and just like going with the flow, and she also, and this was from the like D&D little backstory sheet, it was like she thinks that like one of the options was like, I think everyone is the one. And I was like, that's really fun to play with. I'm going to play with that. So she's like constantly dating and getting her heart broken. And I was like, I would love for this to start, because the prompt was, where would your character be on like a Sunday morning? And I was like getting dumped in a tavern somewhere. And it was like her character introduction.
Yeah.
It was like it was like that scene in Legally Blonde where they're like at a restaurant. The boyfriend shows up with flowers and is like, "Hey, babe, I got something to tell you. You know this was never like serious, right? Like I got to date like a serious, like person,
like a lawyer.
and you're like." You come from like a really nice family that you don't like to talk about, but at the end of the day, you're like a burlesque dancer, basically. Like you're
Yeah.
a stripper. You're like
you're a whore.
You're a jester.
Yeah.
You do like little like shows.
Yeah, you do like little
and you
party
do,
tricks.
like-
You do circus shit
Yeah.
in the back alleys.
You do like circus shit in like seedy taverns for money.
Yeah.
And you flirt with a lot of men. That's not really the vibe I'm going for. And it's like a messy breakup. She's like sobbing. She like is throwing shit at him. She ends up like getting drunk with the like dwarven women in the tavern, and they're like, you can do better, girl. It was just a wild opening. And so she decides that she's gonna like end up actually going to his house, which is a flower shop, and breaking in and burning it down. And that's her intro. And everyone else's was like, you stumble upon a door, and she was like committing arson, which was also very fun. But
I mean, Dakota's was. Let's use his name. Brayon's was
we've
like.
used his name so many times.
Yeah, but I try not to. Browns was like stumbling into a fucking abandoned dwarven stronghold though in the middle of war.
No, that was scary too.
Yeah, his is pretty intense, just like
Yeah.
in like a very different way.
There
know?
was just a big tone shift.
Everyone had a very, very different intro, but sorry, continue.
So
Reveal who he
We-
was.
we find out who. So that was the boyfriend. We know that he's the son of the people at the Queen's Kiss, and
Who
then
she has definitely canonically slept with.
yes, and then we fast forward almost 2 years, and you find out over the course of the campaign that Magnolia, both of her birth parents are not actually her birth parents. Surprise!
Supplies,
Um,
bitch.
So her mother her mother does not claim her as a biological child because she gave birth to her and she was a stillborn, and then magic brought her back to life, and she was like, that's
Yup,
not
yup.
she was like, that's not my baby. I'm gonna pretend it is for the public, but that's not my kid, and I don't claim you as like my biological daughter.
That makes so much sense why she was such a total bitch.
You made that decision.
The whole time though, like wasn't that a great explanation for that though?
Yeah.
She never wanted you in the first place.
Well, like everyone
were a
was like,
fucking freak,
wow,
man.
you hate your like what beef happened between you and your mother, and I'm
Well,
like,
her mother never fucking wanted her, bro, because she
Yeah.
was like an alien.
she was like, that's not my kid.
Nah,
And that's why
G.
Magnolia was the way she was.
My kid died in the fucking table. Who are you? Like,
You came out with scales. That's not right.
yeah, nah, you were looking like a whole reptilian, bro.
Yeah. So you find out that, and then you find out even later that her mother was having an affair.
Mhm.
And that there's this flower shop she kept going to all the time called the Queen's Kiss. And you find out she's having an affair with the person there. And then I'm like, we're reading the diary where it says this, and I'm like, but my biological father's my biological father, right? And Robert's like, yeah. And then we go to the flower shop, and we find out that is not the case.
Nah,
And Robert
mom
lied.
Mom was fucking.
And so that made the decision canonically
Mom was fucking.
that, I mean, Mom was fucking, Magnolia was fucking. They, like, between the two of them, most of Fairhaven has been got. But, like, yeah, then Robert made the canonical decision, and I don't know if he knew this when he made that decision or not. I don't know if he remembered, but it means that Magnolia canonically fucked her half-brother. And I lie awake at night.
Oh, man.
I lie awake at night thinking about that. And only one person in the party knew, and it was also in a very funny situation, which
That's
was
rough.
we were like, the whole party was like fucked up in this little like Grecian town, and like two of the party members are casting like talk to plants on this plant growing in the palm of one of the party members, and the plant is like getting sentience and is like terrified. And then you cut to like two of the edgy characters, Adel and Magnolia, and they're like talking about relationships or something, and Adel's like, I've never been in a relationship and I'm like 30, that's kind of sad. And Magnolia goes, hey, I fucked my half brother, it could be worse. And he went, what? And that was the only time it was ever spoken of in the entire campaign.
Oh, man.
And I have nightmares about that. And I
didn't
hate
make
that
connection
happened.
when I originally did it.
I
was just
didn't
like,
think you did.
I was just like, how do I make the fucking flower shop important? It's because the man that fucking conceived you ran the shop. And then I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
How did we introduce this
Didn't-
place?
Didn't his wait a second.
Yeah.
What about the first set? And then it all clicked. She fucked family.
Yeah.
And this really wasn't the intended outcome, but that was the outcome.
Yeah, it does make the chart of Magnolia's father figures very interesting, because she then now has a stepfather who turns out was one of her old party members sent back in time in a new life, was the stepfather, because he wasn't the biological dad. Probably.
His whole fucking thing was funny as shit, man. Oh my god.
So there's one father, Outie. Second father, the owner of the Queen's Kiss. Cool, that's her ex's father. He's Outie. Then you have fucking Keloy, who's like not technically like related, but like is
In a weird way.
like feels a little bit related.
Yep.
Um,
What's your next negative? For time's
Wow,
sake, what's your
cutting
next
me off.
negative? I'm so sorry. What's your next negative?
the individual targeting.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
When I tell you
I don't like it either, because looking back at it, I wish I would have given so many other people
the
more
beef
story
that
points.
this man had with Magnolia. This is why
Not
I
even
say it felt personal.
personally. Like, it wasn't even personal, though. It was
But
just like,
but
the easiest way to connect the dots was with the person in the fucking middle.
and so this results in why don't you go over the list of things that happened?
I mean, she had a hit on her from birth, so we'll start there. She never
Wild beginning.
She was never really her own person. Her whole life was manipulated by a fucking multi-dimensional / multiversal snake who really only cared about getting a snake taken out of his anus. Or sorry, a tree taken out of his anus. Her like weird father / stepfather was also the same psychopath that murdered her mother in front of her and killed her brother and killed her father inadvertently.
Yep.
Oh Jesus, what else? She pretty much never in control of her own actions, and the only thing that ever kept her alive was sheer dumb luck.
Yeah.
She should have died many, many times, and that was
Yeah.
always the intention, was to kill Magnolia in some way, but it just never fucking happened.
Yeah.
And pretty much everybody she knew and loved either died, went home and never talked to her again, or ended up being the villain.
Yeah.
The only time she ever had a happy ending was when she was solitary confinement to the inn, of which she's never allowed to leave. I mean, the list goes on.
It was. This is why I say it felt personal.
There were just listen. It's like when you're doing a little connect the dots thing, and there's always like that one fucking dot that you always have to come back to because it makes the shape for the next 3 shapes.
Yeah.
You kept being the fucking dot, man.
I'm
'cause I was
sorry
like,
for
how do I pull
existing.
everybody else in? No, it's just my fault. I wrote myself into a hole. You were the MacGuffin. You were 100% the fucking MacGuffin to my campaign.
I know.
And I wanted to kill you off so many times, but you were so in love with the character that I was like, if I kill Magnolia, I'm
her.
never going to hear the end of it.
You wouldn't.
So I kept her alive.
I loved her.
At least I did my best to give you the opportunities to keep her alive. You made a lot of really fucking dumb decisions that would have killed her, but somehow she didn't die.
Listen, I had the support of the entire table.
She made it to the end.
I had people cast Death Ward on me
But
every single day
Talking
like
about
clockwork.
why it was personal, truly the one thing that made it the most personal was the fact that the BBEG, who I canonically made like the most omnipotent / powerful person in the campaign, was constantly gunning for her and everybody in her family and
Yeah.
any of her friends and all of her party members. And it would have been so much simpler, truly, if she had just stepped like to the side and was like, "Hey, let's have a conversation about this." But we've talked about it, and it's the way that he went about it that set the tone for the rest of their interactions.
Yeah, and it was like one of those things where like it was fun. Don't get me wrong, it was, but at some point it was a point where I'm like, bro, pick
Yeah.
on someone else. Because when
Now in our current campaign, she's like afraid to tell me things because she's worried that I'm gonna like use it to then bite her in the
I'm
ass
so
later.
scared.
And I'm like, I'm not going for you, man. Like it was just an unfortunate fucking like outcome of the circumstance.
It was like every situation, and like the amount of times I got kidnapped.
Not to bring in a bit of sociology in this, but there are two different outcomes when you're talking about systems in sociology. One is latent, and one is manifest. A manifest function is what you want to happen. A latent function is what happens regardless of what you want to happen. So, for instance, education. You want somebody to be smart, you put them in education. What happens? They make friends, they get in relationships, they have experiences. Magnolia's trauma was a fucking latent function of the whole campaign. Because the manifest function was just to be a key to start the rest of it.
Yeah,
She was just the first dot, man.
It was messy. It was so messy to the point where like party members were
It was
like,
never
hey.
intentional.
It was always like party members being like, "Hey, what did you do to this
Mhm.
man that he is like?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "I don't know."
Mhm.
I
Well,
have
that was
not-
the other thing too.
I
I think that
haven't
made it so
done
shit for the
anything.
characters. The character never understood why. Like until the
Yeah.
very end, she never knew. She never understood why this guy was like going for her life.
She was just like, I was just chilling, and then one day he killed my whole family, and then he kidnapped me and said, "Hey, do you want to like work together?" And she was like, "You literally just killed my mom in front of me." Like, literally, her body is warm. She's in the next room laying on the floor. You tricked me into getting here. If you had like bought me a drink at the bar and said, "Hey, you want to work together?" She would have said, she was like, "Yeah," I would have said yes.
Yeah.
But you kidnapped me and you killed my whole family. I didn't even like him, but like the principle of it. Did you just play a TikTok at full volume?
No, I didn't.
Are you lying?
I didn't do anything.
Are you lying?
Anyways, I'm gonna go on to my first negative.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, my biggest regret from that whole thing was letting you all get away with letting Fairhaven burn.
We
My
let
little
so many
asterisk
people
next to
burn.
that was introducing two god characters
And then
and then having the character that was at the crux of both of their introductions to the campaign. That's my second one, actually. My second most negative.
hello?
What?
Someone's here.
Interesting. My second
We don't need to lock the door.
Jesus Christ, my second most negative moment is actually kind of at the heart of that too. So we'll start from the beginning. One of our players has a bit of a thing for dragons, and
boner.
always has had a thing for
The boner.
dragons. The joke is that he would fuck a dragon if he could. He gets very upset when we say he would.
I
do
wasn't
that.
even gonna say that. I'm so sorry for
It's
like
just
starting
like a
that.
funny thing. But anyways, he loves dragons. He likes dragons. It is what it is. Some men go through the phase and then some never come out of it, and he's the latter. So anyways, he wanted to play a Dragonborn character, and I was like, cool. I'll give you a Dragonborn character. I'll give you the best Dragonborn character. He was a Dragonborn character who was obsessed with learning about dragons, playing very true to life. And so I introduced him to a dragon cult that worshipped Tiamat, of all people, because that's who the dragon cult worships. Well, with Tiamat comes Bahamut, because Bahamut, I don't know how to fucking say it. I always just say Bahamut. Because how else am I going to counter the fucking Queen of Dragons? By introducing the King of Dragons. Of course, that's the only way that makes sense. So I'm giving him story point after story point after story point about figuring out about Tiamat. He gets caressed and lightly touched and then marked by Tiamat, and I'm pretty sure popped the chode at the table.
I
And then,
love that you added the
and then also met a really cool fucking dragonborn monk that saved his life by putting her fist through the back of a dragon's head. Like, it was just dragon orgy in there, you know what I'm saying? It was dragon after dragon. So he's having a great time eating that shit up. We're going down the line of, like, he's investigating Tiamat's presence and then also, like, taking materials from the dragons. And, like, his whole motivation is, like, finding out more about the dragons. And then, of course, this dragon monk lady works for Bahamut. So it's like, shit, man, that's 2 for 1. 2 most powerful dragons in existence, and I get to learn more about them. So my number one, like, facepalm moment and also just regret of letting it happen from the DM's perspective was letting that character kill himself.
Hey, this shit sucks. Do you have something you want to send in to make it better? Criticisms, topics you'd like to see discussed, or an advertisement you'd like to run? Maybe you even want to sponsor an episode.
If so, shoot us a message at mc460@evansville.edu or DM us on Instagram at Crescent Magazine. Or we'll never get better like these fucking guys. Anyways, we're back. I had to go investigate some spooky noises. So I'm giving this
That was scary as fuck.
giving this dragon character, this dragon PC, dragon player, all these fun dragon plot lines and hooks, and like Tiamat was definitely a little over, little like out of my league, a little over my head in terms of characters that I shouldn't have introduced. Definitely started with introducing him or her for the sake of plot. So, we go to Bahamut's Crystal Palace, and Home Slice has been marked by Tiamat. Now, if you know anything about D&D history or lore, I've talked about this a little bit, Tiamat and Bahamut fucking hate each other because they are on opposite ends of the spectrum. Tiamat is chaotic evil for fuck knows what reason, and Bahamut is
Because God forbid a woman do anything.
and Bahamut is like lawful good to a fault. Like you fucking steal something off with your hands. Like it's bad.
He's a cop.
He's
a cop?
Whoa. Whoa. He's just a
You're
little
not saying no.
He's just a little over the line.
He's a cop.
So anyways, I introduced these 2 characters. We go to Bahamut's realm to like
I don't
fix some
even know
things
why
to
we were there.
heal
I think it
some
was because I got put in timeout because I did something I shouldn't.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure what's her face, Kyutha, was like, "Hey, Big Boss wants to talk to y'all because y'all keep fucking things up.
Yeah.
And if you would like to go back to where you're from, we can figure that out too. Y'all just need to stop terrorizing." Somebody was holding the rest of the party members hostage, so everybody else was like, "That seems like a great idea to me."
It was like
So
a light
then-
hostage.
Again, talking about the lore, they hate each other. I wonder why Tiamat would mark a Dragonborn. Maybe it's I mean, we keep tabs on him. Maybe to just like I don't know, pick favorites, some doodling, some tattoos. Maybe she just likes to fucking I don't know, vandalize other people.
Vandalizing people is crazy.
So we get to Bahamut's realm. Everyone's walking across the Crystal Bridge, and then Kyutha basically puts her hand on Dragonborn Boy's chest and is like, "Hey, I don't know if you know
Back the
this,
Fuck up.
but you got a fancy little mark on your neck, and I don't vibe with that mark. That mark means that you need to go back from which you fucking came from, or you can try and step to this bridge, and I'm gonna put you in the dirt." And he goes, "All right, I'll take the second option."
And the rest of she goes, the rest of y'all can go.
Yeah, she's like, "The rest of y'all can go along your merry way." And of course, nobody in the party steps in because they're like, "This isn't our fucking fight. We didn't do anything."
Okay. The Dragonborn boys said to go.
Yeah. Everyone was like, "Did we
were
hop
told
into
we
this
were not
fight?"
supposed to stay.
Yeah. Well, anyways, everyone
Not
makes
that
the
ever
decision.
stopped us before.
Exactly. I don't know why it stopped y'all in that moment. Everyone leaves him. He's on the bridge. He 1v1s the monk. Monk walks away with like 2 health. Man like fucking twin spells fireball and then just proceeds to melt her health down to like 10. I hit him once. He's down. Really cool flying climactic fight that happens between the 2 of them. She's about to basically put her fist to the back of his skull, and Bahamut's like, "Hey man, we got some use for him, yeah? We're here. We're about reform. We've inflicted some justice. Hopefully we've beat some sense into him. Drag him back. We'll remove the mark and be on our merry way." Well, this motherfucker's unconscious. So, of course, Tiamat pops in and goes, "Hey, listen. Right now you're being dragged across this crystal bridge, face down, ass up, holes in you. getting humiliated, chances are you're going to die. Because I know my brother. My brother's a scumbag. He'll kill anybody that looks at anybody the wrong way because that's just the kind of person he is.
A cop.
Now, what if I told you that I got a 1-for-1, 2-for-1 special for you? I will let you come back to life scot-free, no consequences, absolutely zero price to be paid. And I'll send you back to Muhammad's realm. I'll send you right the fuck back where you came from. And of course, he's unconscious, so he doesn't know that anybody on the outside has made the decision to let him live.
Yeah.
I'll let you know a secret. The plan was to make him fucking another Kyuta and to give him like super sick powers. He pissed that all away. He said, you know what? I'm totally unaware of what's happening out there. I don't like the fact that I was just fucking killed on this bridge. So I'm actually going to take that deal, Tiamat. And Tiamat goes, yes, you will. So he comes back, and then out of him spawns basically a fucking portal to hell where she's being held basically captive, hostage, fucking boogeyman monster, whatever you want to call it. She's been put on a short leash by a devil. And her whole fucking ploy was to get to Crystal Palace and then proceed to wreck shit with the aid of devils and dragons
Yeah.
so that she would finally have a one-up in the war. Because she always loses. She's always weaker. But with the added power here, there was a real chance that she could win that fight, and she took that chance. She chose Petty over everything else, and he lets her through. So then he's like, damn, I feel kind of bad now. How do I fix this? And I'm like, give me an Arcana check. Give me an Insight check. Give me some feels. And the most information that I could give him based on his checks was it feels like it spawned from you. It feels like you are the cause. Now, that did not mean that there was a link, any kind of a link, any kind of a physical, metaphysical, magical link. That just means that was me saying, hey, this is a consequence to your action. But he took that as a literal connection and goes, so does that mean if I were to jump through this portal, that it would close? And I said, well, give me a check. Check wasn't good. I said, really, it's a coin toss. And he goes, well, there's really nothing else I can do here in this situation. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to jump through. He jumps through, turns around, portal does not close. Turns around again, and then proceeds to get gangbanged by like 6 dragons that are all just waiting for a motherfucker to come through. And then proceeds to get torn apart by the thing he loves the most.
His death was so heartbreaking.
It was so sad because he was like a really fun character. And it's like, it's not that he as a player made poor decisions. He just was working off the information he had and thought he was making the best decision to help the people he cared about the most. And it just fucking backfired, you know?
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, there was nothing he could have done in that moment to close it.
Yeah.
Like, I was not going to allow him to close it. It was a decision that he made. It was a deal he made. There was nothing he could do. It was not within his power to do it.
Yeah.
Consequences of actions. I'm big on that in my campaigns. So that's
Yeah.
probably where it started. That's also my second on the fucking worst things that I feel like have happened in the campaign. The second one, technically the first one, is then a direct result of this. Tiamat goes brazy in Crystal Palace. She's killing every motherfucking dragon she can. She's fucking up Bahamut every which way. They get locked in a war. Party members are like breaking into the white space. They're like, cool, skedaddle, motherfuckers. We're out, dude.
Yeah, that was a moment where in a like very separate part of the realm, Magnolia's like, I can't make doors anymore. And the other party members will go, yeah, you
Try,
can. We
try,
just believe in you.
Try.
Here, We'll help you. And Robert goes, how are you going to help her in this moment?
And they were basically
go,
like power of friendship.
yeah, they were dead. I was like, I don't know. We put a hand on her shoulder and tell her that she can do it. And then she did. And they were like,
Yep.
let's leave.
So, and the reason why I have that on my list of failures is I really feel like I should have just told him not to do it. And I finally arrived at that point in the campaign we're currently playing in where I'm just telling people, please don't make this decision. I like your characters too much to watch you walk into fucking stupid consequences.
Yeah.
But that was a time I was early in my DMing career, and I was just really kind of hardlining it. So, I let him kill himself. So fast forward
Bro.
to like the fucking mid-season finale, like we talked about with Nidhogg, that fight. Fairhaven's under siege. Devils are basically let loose in the streets. Keloy has made his ploy. He's opened a portal to hell. He's like, Tiamat, I got you. I'll give you what you want as long as you help me out. I'll free you from the devils. He's basically playing the devils and Tiamat against one another and is using them both to invade Fairhaven to look for Magnolia and the rest of Magnolia's family, the Nerifines.
Mhm.
So, fast forward a little bit more. Things are bad. Queen of Fairhaven is like, hey, y'all, if you can go close that giant ass root that's sitting in the middle of my city that seems to be bringing bad vibes here, I'll give you whatever you want. And they were like, you know what? Side quest sounds fun. We'll go fuck with that. So then that kicks off the fight with Nidhogg and the plants and Keloy. And what ends up happening is that fucking Bahamut and Tiamat end up showing up for a 1v1 in the skies of Fairhaven and are like, hey man, this is the fucking time. All the battles are happening. It was partially me also wanting to resolve it. So the way that I play the fight is that people can throw up spells, take actions to give Bahamut bonuses, an advantage on rolls, pluses, that kind of thing. And I'm basically just rolling fucking raw d20s against each other. 3 strikes, you're out for Bahamut. 3 strikes, you're out for Tiamat. Well, you can guess how that fight fucking went.
I'm telling you, I've never seen rolls like this. I threw up
The amount
like
of-
a 4th and 5th level spell,
Mhm.
which is crazy.
The amount of people that threw up high level spells to like make that fight go well, because I mean it was basically like whoever won that fight, that was gonna decide the future of the fucking city, and the planet too.
And he just kept rolling that once for us
Mm-hmm.
with
So
this fucking dice. And I'm gonna tell you about this dice for a second. I'm gonna hijack.
I don't think I had those dice at that time.
Yes, you did.
Oh, maybe I did.
Yes, the fuck you did,
Did
because
I?
that's when my beef with them started. These dice have never rolled well for an ally. And I mean this to my fucking core. They have never rolled well for an ally. Only villains. Only bad guys. And I'm telling you, it is something. No, put the mic up to your mouth when you're fucking cackling, because he knows I'm right. He knows. I
Bullshit.
swear to God, he put a fucking curse on them. I don't know what witch he had to pay, but I am telling you, this man has never rolled above like a 6 for an ally with this fucking dice. Enemies? Nat 20s. 18s, 19s, 15 minimum. 15 minimum. It's bullshit. Continue.
So, anyways, Bahamut loses that fight.
Like
Barely.
a bitch.
It was like 2-3. It wasn't like by a landslide or anything. Tiamat wins. Keloy gets sucked up into Nidhogg. Nidhogg dips. So fucking the BBEG has gotten away. The root is definitely not getting closed because they have to go through Nidhogg's lizard ass.
Yeah.
The
was not
party is
happening.
out of spell slots, out of health except for Magnolia, who's just like fucking shell shocked and trauma fucked.
But full health.
And then Tiamat wins the fight. She goes down to 1 head, loses every other head. Bahamut rips them motherfuckers off, and she lives with 1 head. And so now it is Tiamat flying towards the root, and I'm like, y'all have a decision to make. You can either stand and fight Tiamat, who I rolled had 200 health, which honestly was doable with how fucking broken your party was. Minus the fact that you all were all kind of pretty low, except for you. I think you alone could have won that fight if
But
Tiamat did not one-tap you.
But then you said I
But
didn't have my spell
give that
slots.
information. Yeah, then also the spell slot thing.
If I had my spell slots, I could take any motherfucker down.
So then I was like, you have a decision to make, party. As a group of heroes, not so heroes now. You can stay in Fairhaven and you can try and 1v1 Tiamat, who's at like a 1/6 of her health and power, or you can fucking skedaddle. 2 people in this party, mind you, have a deep personal connection to this city. One of them is the Prince of Fairhaven. The other one, her whole fucking family's from Fairhaven.
It was me.
Uh-huh. And then the third one was from like Fairhaven back when it was fucking primal.
Yeah.
There were 3 people in this 5-party group that had a deep connection to the city. They looked at Tiamat, they looked at that portal, and they said, not our fight. And then proceeded to walk the fuck out. The first person that made that decision was the Prince of Fairhaven.
No, he was the last.
I thought he
one.
was the first.
No, he was the last because he told us to go.
Oh, no,
for
that's
sure.
right.
He told
Yeah, he
us to
told
go
y'all to dip.
immediately. But it was a really cool moment at the end where we were like, his whole thing was like he was supposed to protect Fairhaven. And there was a really cool moment at the end where everyone else had gone through the door, and it was my character turned to him and was like, "Hey, I know this is your deal.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is the ship you want to go down on. If you want to come with us, that option is there. I'm not going to hold you hostage.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take you home at any time if there's still a home to go to. But like, we'd love to have you." And then he like makes the decision to go through, and then we were so proud of this. Like outside of the table, we were like, "Oh my god, he's gonna rip off his royal insignia and like throw it on Magnolia and go through the door." And it was like so dramatic. But yeah, it was. I mean, it didn't feel good walking away.
Yeah. No, I think that was probably the hardest L I've ever seen at the table.
I mean, what? From our
Nothing
perspective,
came out
what
of-
could we have done?
Yeah. I mean, and nothing positive came out of that fight at all.
No.
It was a loss on literally every side.
And it was still one of my favorite fights.
I mean, our top
was
two
so
favorite
sick.
moments and my top negative moment came out of the same fight.
Yeah. It was such a cool
Yeah.
session.
It is super well, really well designed. Super well planned. I did a little planning. For
I'm
that
in a
one.
mood today where I'm not giving him credit. So
But yeah, I think those are probably my two negatives: letting Dragon Guy die the way that he died, and then letting Fairhaven go out the way that it did.
both like a bitch.
Yeah, truly, like both just didn't need to go out that way.
Yeah. It was sad.
So now we switch to the superhero campaign.
Superhero campaign. Which normally should be like a very lighthearted switch, but
I can kick off with my positive.
yeah, go for it.
I think my positive and ours might overlap. I hope they don't. But I think my favorite moment from the campaign, my top draft pick at least, is probably just the intro session. Yeah, just the intro
overlap.
session. Everyone's intros were super good, and we got a really good, strong feel for the vibes of everybody from like session 1. We did have to go over and do another one just because it was the first one. I just wasn't happy with my
We did
performance
like
as
a
a
session
DM.
0.
Yeah, we
kind
did
of
like a
thing.
session 0, and I think it was really helpful too, though, because
It helped us set the tone for like what it was gonna be.
no one really knew how to use the system, including me. So it was just a time for us to figure everything out.
Yeah.
But I mean, we pretty much followed the same story point for point. There were a couple differences, just because I didn't want it to be like cookie cutter. You know what to expect, but everyone had a really great introduction. Everyone had a reason to come together. It was super quick come together too, which was nice to see. Kind of shared mutual interest of being heroes. Yeah, I don't know. There weren't a whole lot of things to say about it. Truly, it was just I love the way it shook out.
So my top was also the intro, specifically because I'm a player, so I'm very centric to myself. Where Roberts are going to be more centric to the table.
Yeah.
My favorite was my character's introduction. Her name is Nightlight. So it starts with her talking to her best friend and her everything. This guy named Parker, who's very anti-heroes. Like
Fuck the soups.
yeah, he's against heroes as a
Fuck the
concept.
soups.
And Daisy is like a huge hero fanatic. And so that already kind of set the tone for this really fun dynamic between the two of them, which is, yeah, they're best friends. And yeah, they have like a very deep relationship with each other, but also they have one of their like core moral beliefs conflict with each other. And it creates these really cool conversations and these really cool debates of like, does it do good or does it do bad? So then it switches from that. She goes to like a back alley and like rolls a nat one on like changing her clothes and like hits her head on the fucking wall. But then changes into her little superhero costume and is like, yeah, I'm gonna go like on patrols and be a superhero. And she ends up meeting this guy Jury, who genuinely is one of my favorite like NPCs and characters to interact with in the campaign, just
I have a
because of
great
how
time
fun it is.
role playing with him.
And he's this like fucking smarmy, like daddy's money. I'm a hero for the glitz and glamour in the press, and
I'm
I
good
have
at what I do, and I look good doing it.
yeah, like just fucking. Smarmy's truly like the best word I can like. He
Little grease ball, little grease
Like,
ball.
like a little asshole. And Nightlight is just she sounds like Nightlight. She's a fucking ray of sunshine. She's just so fucking excited to be there, and she believes that there's so much good in everyone. And why would anyone ever do anything for a negative reason? Like, no one would lie on the internet. That's like mean.
Yup.
Like a little bit naive.
No one's
and
gonna
so,
be a hero for the wrong reasons.
yeah, so she's like on a rooftop and he rolls up and she's like, "Oh my god, like I'm a huge fan of your comics." And he's like, "Yeah. Do you want to like do a collab? I need some like good press and you seem like a decent like, local hire. So, we can do like a little contract together." And she's like, "Oh my god, a team up? Oh my god, my first like superhero friend." And she's like so hyped. And then they end
He's
up
like cracking beer, smoking cigarettes.
yeah, if there was at one point where he was like, "Yeah, cool," like, and is like flying her. And she's like, you smell like alcohol. Are you supposed to like be
fly
flying?"
and drink.
He was like, "Is flying and drinking illegal in this world?"
Drink and fly. Don't drink and fly, kids.
And it was like, it was just very fun, and like interacting with that character was fun because they end up like breaking into a warehouse, and it was like her being like, "Okay, here's my time to shine and like show my powers," and
And
he's
then
like, "Is
he
that a fucking comic book?"
Yep.
And she's like, yeah.
And then he's the
That's so
one that
cool.
fucks it all up and freaks out because somebody
Yeah.
says his like government last name. Because somebody fucking brought in the car that he tried to pawn off earlier that day, and
Yeah.
it just all goes downhill so quickly.
And
And he's
she's
like,
like-
cool, we're no longer here covertly, we are here overtly.
And she's like, what are we doing? And he's like swinging already. And she's like, oh.
And call
we're
the
doing
fucking
that.
animal-powered bouncer like a fish.
Yeah, and it was just every interaction between them was so funny. Just because
Mhm.
I think it's very fun to like oppose two like very contrasting characters, and it was also so much fun getting to like play as a character who is doing what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
like for a living. Like this is their dream, and it was just really really fun to play. And then I didn't really get to like meet or talk super much with like the other players that early on, just because like our PCs didn't really interact with each other much. But there was just a fun like collaborative energy. It was like we're all here, we're all fighting the same fight for different reasons, and we don't know each other yet. But like it was just fun.
I think my introduction of Codfather is probably up there too. Codfather's one of my favorite fucking villains I think I've ever done.
He's so ridiculous.
He really is. The first picture I ever used of him was basically just like an NFT of a fucking gold shark with a cigar in his mouth.
Yeah, and then we found out it was an NFT, and we were like, God damn it.
Yeah, no thanks.
But that was such a fun.
Fucking gangster shark, man.
Yeah. It was just such a fun energy, and I think that like all of the character interactions were really fun. And I think it was partly because I was very like I was having a great time playing a positive character because Magnolia was very like
And it for sure felt
Edgy.
like superhero-y intro. Like,
yeah.
you know, everybody stumbles into the same warehouse accidentally and is fighting the same guys and is like, hey, we all have shared mutual interests. Let's like hang out and get a coffee.
Yeah, and there's like a link between all of them that they don't fully know yet because
Yeah, and
like
then
they
there's,
all
like, a
met
guy
the
who's
same
like,
NPC but
Nah.
didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just very fun. It was very like classic. It was very camp. It was just very lighthearted, and it had also been a while since we did anything lighthearted.
Uh-huh. And God forbid you try to do anything fucking lighthearted in a campaign, man.
Speaking of which,
Yeah, going straight into fucking negatives. This one happened super recently, and we were debating about whether or not we wanted to talk about it. But this negative for me, oh my god, I kind of have two.
we both kind of have the same positive and
Yeah.
negative.
They're just different parts of the same particular character's actions. So I have never felt physically sick at a table, except for when a couple of characters have almost died in the first campaign, which even then it was never really sick. It was just kind of sad. The consequences / actions / consequences of the actions made genuinely made me feel sick. Like, I like to pride myself on being a pretty good DM, all things considered. Just in terms of being able to, like,
Depends on the day.
slime and slide my way through random obstacles that might happen at the table and, like, kind of, you know, improv our way to success and victory and having a good time. It's one thing I pride myself on because I don't really like to plan. Well, somebody decided that this semester was the semester to fucking test out the limit on that one. So I'm not gonna talk about how it starts because that's more Madison's thing. But the way it ends.
Should I go first?
Yeah, you can go first.
Just because mine kind of ties in, but mine's a specific thing. So there's a moment where a character in our party, in our superhero group, is working undercover, like as his day job for this company called DRT, which is called the Deviant Response Team. People with superpowers are called deviants in this world. DRT is basically like they're like the militia force that are called in to handle specifically like deviant related things. So like superhero people, they get their own special like
Not like
task
the
force.
FBI, but for deviants and only deviants.
Yeah, it's like the bomb squad for deviants.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of an antagonist to everyone who's a deviant. But he works for them and he has a superhero identity, and the party knows that he works for DRT because identities have gone to the fucking wind at this point for everyone in the party except for my character, whose identity was very, very, very important to her.
And well preserved.
And well preserved. Like I was the only character at the table who at this point still had a secret identity because everyone else had already either like said theirs or like had theirs revealed for one reason or another. but I've been like very, very careful to maintain mine. Like, make sure not to show the party any documents that would have personal information on them, because she really, really cares about Parker. And also, not only Parker's safety, but if Parker finds out that she's a superhero, that's going to cause some tension in their relationship. And she is like, oh, there's no cell service down in our little hideout. I'm going to go above and like get some cell service so I can call him and make sure that he's okay. And this other character goes, okay, I'll go with you because I can like run really fast and I'll just take you there quicker. And she's like, great. And while they're up there, he gets a text from his boss saying like, you haven't been to work in 3 days. What's up, man? I'm about to fire you. And he's like, no, I'm undercover. I found someone who's like linked with the target of the mission that we're trying to hunt down as DRT. And he goes, okay, send proof. And he's up there with Nightlight is the only other person. So he goes, hey, do a superhero pose for me real quick. And she does because this is her friend. And also she has a weakness for like superhero poses and like being a superhero. So he takes a picture of her and he sends it to DRT and says, this is her. She's directly
not,
linked.
by the way, just to like a guy in DRT. Sends it
The
to
boss.
to the head of DRT, like fucking J. Edgar Hoover, like top of the fucking food chain, basically like de facto president. If like the mayor goes MIA,
Yeah.
this is the girl we're looking for.
She's directly linked to like all of these issues that have happened. And my character has no idea of this like massive betrayal. And DRT, because every like deviant has to be registered in like some effect with the government, DRT is able to pull those records and is very quickly able to find her personal identity. And then I wasn't there for the next session, but apparently he went into work and doubled down on it and was like, yeah, she also works with this group called the Splice Circle,
Oh my
who were
God.
like
Yeah.
the big criminals. Like that is the like if the Justice League was evil, that's them.
Well, it's like we have a Justice League, which is the Millennial Group, and then we have the fucking Doom Squad, which
Yeah.
is or League of Evil Villains, whatever the fuck, whichever one you like to talk about more, which is the Spy Circle.
And says, yeah, she works for them. Like she works with them. She's a part of it. And she's just a little 21-year-old, like,
And he's like, cool. At this point, by the way, the boss that we're referring to, he is wigged out. He is on high alert. His prized possession, the thing that could bring down his entire career and like the whole department of DRT, is out in the city, loose, fucking being a superhero, and doing a pretty good job of being low key about it. And this particular character just so happened to like wind up in a really good situation where he could kind of play both sides of the fence from the perfect spot and fumble the bag.
yeah.
And then proceeds to tell Crazy Man, who's like fucking Charlie Day
Be like,
in the office,
she's the one
yeah,
behind it all.
like fucking, he's wigged out, his tie's off, his shirt's a mess, he's got corkboard, whiteboard, he's doing the whole thing.
her security, her
And
social
he, like,
security number, her home
Comes over the
address.
desk and is like, hey bro, how deep in this is she? Because she's the only link we got to this. And he goes, she's the full link. She's the person we gotta get. She's public enemy number one.
She's the bad guy.
And I rolled a fucking insight check. I did insight versus deception. And guy was so fucking nutso that he was like, yeah, this is the big break we need. And then proceeds to basically send the FBI after one person in a
One-
city that's like way smaller than most countries.
Yeah.
It's a city.
Like,
And it's not that big.
like it I mean, like, this is just a little 21-year-old girl who's like saves kittens out of trees.
He's also completely unaware of what is happening.
Completely unaware, completely unprepared, like literally has no way of knowing this. So she's sleeping at her fucking house. She gets a knock on a door, which was a fucking like basically I'm assuming I've got to get this character out of this situation real quick from Robert. And it has the captain of the police knock on her door personally and be like, hey, girl, let me in. And she goes, I need to see a warrant. I don't trust the cops. And she goes, Nightlight, open the fucking door. And I, as a player, go, yes? And she comes in and she's like, cool, you are DRT's like #1 most wanted. They are hunting you down. They are on their way to your apartment. You need to get the fuck out of town. You need to scrap your identity. You need to go underground. Daisy cannot exist. Nightlight cannot exist right now. Like, you gotta fucking hide. And I get to go, cool. And it was just kind of a hard moment as a player to have that much agency kind of taken from you. When it's a character that you and
And
this
the
is
backstory
like
that we'd been working up to too, like she was finally hitting her like Spider-Man stride, where it's like
yeah, she was finally starting to do good.
got
To make a name
heroes
for
and we're on a
herself.
case and we just got a thing and we got problems to solve and investigations to put together and I got friends now, and then it's like
Yeah.
no, breaks,
Yeah, it was just
solid concrete wall.
it was just like it was kind of just, and it wasn't like it was something I would have loved to have explored. Just not at that moment. Because it was like she had just started establishing who she was, like on a bigger level than just being like local to the like, and I don't mean neighborhood, like city neighborhood, not even the block, like literally her apartment building. She was like known there. And then to be like suddenly to lose all of that and be like, cool, well now all of my downtime is going to be is having to be spent instead of doing things like talking to my friends or training to get better powers or trying out new things, has to be spent trying to clear my name, and like find receipts and find ways to prove my innocence so I can leave our little underground bunker where I live now, because I can't go home. It just kind of sucked to have that happen in that moment.
Yeah. So to kind of go into my moment then, and I think I don't really want to focus on the moment so much as I want to focus on why I feel like this has been my biggest mistake of this campaign. I gave a lot of people a lot of power, and some people were just more ready for it than others. Truly, I think what it was is that I had never been a DM for this particular player before. I had been a player with that person at a campaign. We've been playing in the same campaign for a very long time. I have also been a player for that particular person who has then DM'd the campaign after the one that we played in as players together. So I feel like I had a pretty good handle on how he was going to be as a person and as a player. And everyone kind of had a varying role of like real world influence and responsibility. And that was my favorite part about this campaign going into it, because I was really trying to go for a world that felt alive and active and interactive and like moving with or without the players. Like I wanted to really reinforce just how significant a role heroes can have on their environment in people with that kind of power, both good and bad.
Yeah.
And we just so happened to stumble into the second one.
So
So I gave
So
one
first.
particular player, like she mentioned, a position with the FBI. And they were pretty high up. They were like second, third in command. Like they were a hop, skip, and a jump away from like executive director. And their best friend, as far as they were aware, was like that guy. Was the guy at the top? Was J. Edgar Hoover.
I love that you keep using J. Edgar Hoover.
I'm pretty sure, was he not the guy that was the fucking head of the FBI for a long time and like started
can't
all the?
remember.
You should Google that for me so I know whether or not I need to cut that.
You say that like we've cut any other times we've just been dead wrong.
Anyways, he might have just been a fucking president and I'm just stupid.
I'm pretty sure he was a president. No, former director of FBI.
Fuck yeah! See, I knew I was
There
right.
you
Guy
go.
started all sorts of counterintelligence shit. He did a lot of really, really nutty stuff. Anyways, I'm not here to go down that rabbit hole.
I'm going down it while you talk.
Yeah, war crimes. But
Anyway, I was about to say something about our government. Never
yeah,
mind.
don't do that. So anyways,
Imagine
J.
us
Edgar
getting taken
Hoover's
down for this podcast.
best friend is like basically deep undercover, and I gave a player basically like a hop, skip, and a jump away from having the keys to a nuke. And for reference, this character had worked on said metaphorical nuke and was the only person that had the ability to turn it on or off.
Yeah.
Like, he was the only thing stopping this guy from having the nuke that we all knew he was gonna use based on his erratic behavior. You know?
Yeah.
Guy itching for a fix. I did not prepare properly. I did not step in as a DM properly. I did not pump the brakes when I should have.
For the most
Um,
unhinged decisions
and
I've
what I-
ever seen.
What I have noticed about this particular player is that when you give them conflict, unlike most players who will either back down from it or will try to find a way around it rather than through it, this particular player likes to tackle it head first.
And put it in their mouth.
And yep, Pretty much. And not just even in like a way where like, yeah, we're gonna start the combat encounter every time. I mean like fucking foot in mouth, as wide as far as that shit will go. Like cannonball into like a fucking glass house. Like it's really to the point. Like the metaphor that I'm thinking of right now is like, let's just say that there's a glass house. House is very expensive, very fragile, very well connected house.
Mhm.
There's one object you need in the middle, and it's going to be a little difficult to get it, but you can see through the walls because I've given you a glass house, and you have a lot of power. You can see through the walls. You understand how this works.
Yeah. You have superpowers, by
you
the
have
way.
superpowers. And your solution to getting to that fucking ball in the middle of the house is not to go through doors, is not to close them behind you gently. It is not to tiptoe. It is not to ask other people for help.
It is not to cut a hole in the glass with a little glass cutter like you're in a spy movie.
It is to literally put on shoulder pads and a fucking helmet, football style, and then
Kool-Aid Man.
proceed to truck your ass through the front door all the way to that goddamn ball. And I'll be fuck if anything's gonna get in your way. It doesn't matter what decision has to be made, whose career you gotta ruin, whose life you gotta take a shit on, whose fucking gun you gotta give a blowjob to. It doesn't matter. There are no consequences.
All of which those things happened in the campaign. This man gave a gun a blowjob in the second session we met him. He had someone pull a gun on him and he put it in his mouth. He also had someone pepper spray him, and he took the pepper spray and pressed the button to make it do it again. I thought we forgot about that moment. I'm bringing that back because that was crazy.
Chaotic of chaotic characters. So, not knowing that was going to be how the player decided to tackle the issues, I gave them the fucking power to essentially alter the entire campaign. And boy howdy, did it go down pretty quick. I kept giving him big plot points and big story points, and instead of being a hero and trying to play him low key, he just proceeded to take a fucking sledgehammer, and just went at it. Just bulldozed all the way through that bitch.
So speaking of doxing,
Oh, that also happened in the campaign. Somebody got motherfucking doxed.
I was talking about the second doxing.
Oh, so the event in particular that I'm leading all this catastrophe up to is that this character, this is post leaking of Nightlight. Everyone at the table basically physically cringed when that happened. By the way, it was not just Madison being like, "What the fuck?" It was everybody at the table going, "What the fuck? What did you just do?"
Yeah,
and then when he doubled down on it, everybody was like, "What are you doing?"
And I wasn't even there for that, by the way. I got a phone call to update me on the session, and Robert goes, "Oh, by the way,
he doubled down.
He doubled down. He said you're the bad guy."
Yeah. So then
I'm
anybody
2 hours
that's
away in another city, minding my business.
Anybody that's familiar with the Marvel Comics and specifically X-Men will know that there's a very famous villain. They're called the Sentinels, the Sentries, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Their whole thing is that they are designed specifically to kill people with the X gene. They can, and sort of the later versions of them, they can adapt and basically reform themselves to be anything, any tool, any weapon, any resistance, any invulnerability to kill the mutant that is in the vicinity. I essentially introduced this concept really early on and made him the co-creator of said Sentinel. He was the only one that had the ability to turn it on. His boss could not figure out how to turn it on because he kept canonically sabotaging it so that he could eventually find a way to dismantle them all and keep him from turning them on.
Yeah.
So then we're at the penultimate conversation between Big Boss and character. And Big Boss goes, "Hey, man, I don't really like what's been going on. You know, you keep saying it's this girl. We can't figure anything out. We're not making any progress
It
with
looks
the plots.
like she's just a college
It
student.
looks like she's just a person. I need you to either do something for me here and now in this moment, give me something to trust you again, to get you back into my good graces, or you're fired. Your life is ruined. You will never work anywhere of any substance ever again." And you know what he does? He goes, "Okay, I'll give you something. I'm gonna go turn on the murder bots. I'm gonna go turn on the walking nukes. mind you, we know what they're capable of because one of the characters in the campaign is playing a fucked up version of one of those bots.
Like a prototype.
And is like running through motherfuckers like it is nothing because that is the
Yeah.
character that he has been designed to play. So we're very aware of what these things can do. So I'm like, cool, maybe he's gonna go in and try and like sabotage them. So like when they get turned on, they short circuit, and then he can like run and then find the kidnapped family members that are also being held in the same fucking facility. You know what he does? He goes on a 23. He goes, I turn them on. I said, do you like sabotage them or like try to make it like turn it on and then like fake it? And he goes, no, I just turn them on. I said, are you fucking kidding me? He
I wish y'all could see Robert's fucking face right now as he's reenacting this.
He goes, no, I turn them on. I said, okay. So we've given the crazy man with the fucking whiteboard and the red string,
Charlie
the keys
Day.
to the nukes. We've given him the keys to the nukes. and then he goes, by the way, man, I really appreciate the favor you've just done for me. I know you're a superhero, and I've known for the last, like, week, because we have been watching your ass since you went MIA, because you're, like, one of our top executives. Why didn't you think we would be doing that?
Yeah.
And he goes, at the table, I shit you not, his reaction is, what? And I go, yeah, no, like, we've known. But I like you so much as a person, in-character person to in-character person, that I'm going to give you one chance. Put down the cape, come work for me, put down the whole superhero business, and we will turn this city into the best, like, city we possibly can. We will usher in a new era of peace. You'll be at the front of it, the creator of the murder bots. Life is great. And you know what he says, standing next to one of the murder bots that he just turned in? I shit you not, less than 10 feet away. He goes, nah, I'm a fight. And then proceeds to get two-pieced. He goes down 3 times in 2 rounds of combat. Which, if anybody knows the rules of the game, you go down 3 times, you perma-die. I was like, I can't kill him. That feels wrong. So I give him a chance. He escapes to the front, gets downed again.
You learned your lesson with the dragon thing.
I learned my
You're
lesson
trying
with
to-
the
you're trying to
dragon
make
thing. I'm
amends.
trying to make amends. And he still cannot, even with giving him the ability to escape death not once, not twice, but 3 times, seem to get out of this goddamn facility and escape the murder bot. So then I have to bring in Superman to come in and save his little scrawny ass. Because basically, 10 minutes before this conversation, he looked Superman dead in his face and went, I know who Lois Lane is. You have fun with that piece of information. After Superman told him he was the worst hero he'd ever seen. He goes, tell Lois Lane I said hi.
Lewis?
Lois Lane. So then Superman comes and saves him only because he mentions Lois Lane's name. Superman comes and goes to fight the bot, basically almost dies, which everyone is like mouth agape. How the fuck did that happen? It's called I designed a bot whose premise was killing Superman.
You didn't actually mean to almost kill Superman.
It was a possibility. It was a possibility, man. And everyone was like, holy shit, what the fuck is happening? Meanwhile, Guy's not speaking a word. He's not telling anybody what he's done because he gets bitch slapped by fucking Captain America because Captain America's like, I know what you've done. You fucked us all.
Like, I know this character's name is Rebellion, is like a cross between Captain America and Homelander.
And then,
And I know he's supposed to be a bad guy, but in that moment, I was fully on his side. Like, everything he said in that, like, interaction was correct.
And then knock off Scarlet Witch is like, you know what, cherry on top, no more powers for you. And then proceeds to turn off his powers using magic. You know, at this point you're thinking, damn, I've really punished this guy. We should let him go. And I do let him go. You know what? I let him go. I say, you know what? You can make your own decisions now. I've taken away your powers. Your best friend doesn't like you. Superman told you you're basically fucking the Joker, but worse, somehow bad at the Joker's job. And you can get fucked. And then had to save your scrawny ass in front of the whole city after you turned on the nuke.
And then the next session, you're like, okay, here's how to get your powers back.
Next session, I'm like,
here
here's
is verbatim how to get your powers
Here's
back.
how we retcon. Here's how we retcon. We make amends. We make amends with the character whose identity you've doxed. We clear her name, or you can go talk to knock off Scarlet Witch, who's definitely not going to do you any favors.
Yeah.
You know what he does? You know what this guy does? He proceeds to go on live television, broadcasting to the whole city because he has our friendly neighborhood murder bot player hijack into every fucking screen. We're playing in a cyberpunk city, by the way. I'm sure you can guess how many fucking screens are in the city. So then he goes on live television and he says, all right, guys. So I'm responsible for the whole nightlight thing. You can scratch that off. That's all on me. I'm a scumbag. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Do you say anything else? And he goes, yeah, no, I info dumped the whole thing. I said, what do you mean the whole thing? And he goes, the whole thing, like everything that's happened in the last, like, I don't know, week. And I said, okay. So then I start going through the list of things that he's like info dumping. I said, okay, so do you name drop J. Edgar Hoover as the guy behind the nuke who's already unhinged and has a nuke? And he goes, no, I don't name drop him. I go, okay, what about the fact that the fucking DRT has kidnapped the family? Do you mention that? Because that's a big thing to accuse the FBI of. And he goes, yeah, no, I mentioned that. I don't mention the names of the kidnapped people because that fucking matters. But I let the world know, the city know, that the fucking standing military is kidnapping innocent civilians.
And also making robots to kill every person with deviant powers.
Yeah, so then the last thing I ask, okay, so do you info dump anything about the murder bots? And he goes, yeah. I go, okay, so what does yeah include? He goes, everything. I said, about the fact that you made them? He goes, oh, no, not that. I said, okay, but just about like the fact that DRT has them and they're turned on? He goes, yeah. I said, okay. So then DRT hijacks the fucking live stream and is like, hey guys, this is unequivocally false. So you know what his reaction is? Shut down the live stream, double down. He goes, nah, DRT's lying to you. Coming live from some base in the middle of fuck nowhere, DRT is out to get you. So then everything breaks fucking loose. The city loses it. DRT shuts off the power, rolls out murder bots, is basically out looking for the whole superhero team.
Mind you.
Because what do you think they've been doing?
Guess what
Reconning.
level we are, folks.
5 and 7.
5
We
and
just
7.
watched a fucking, basically a level 25 character 1v1 and almost lose to one of these things. There were 8. 8 in the fucking bank that are
Loose.
And so at this point as a DM, I'm like, cool. I don't know what to do.
There was a moment where we still had like 2, almost 3 hours left in our playtime, and Robert just goes, I think we have to end here today. I, at this point, am feeling physically ill, because also at this point, I said, what are we doing, guys? Are we going full send into this fuck shit? Are we playing full fuck shit? And everyone goes, yeah, we're playing full fuck shit. So I said, cool. I go on Twitter and I leak photos of Superman and the mayor and the J. Edgar Hoover and some other
Having dinner
superheroes.
and being buddy and
Yeah.
colluding.
Yeah, having a little dinner with manila
Basically-
envelopes
yeah,
on the
it's basically
table.
then just points the finger at every person in power and then involves Superman in that conversation.
Yeah, and so I was like, cool, I guess she tweets that out and
So then her whole identity online gets erased because, of course, the FBI is like, nah, I don't fuck with that.
Yeah.
You can't point the finger at us. Which then it goes trending on Twitter. And then
course.
everybody picks it up and it gets reposted. But all of her social media accounts are just fucking deleted.
which
Deleted.
a huge chunk of her personality is her social media presence,
Yeah,
which sounds really
100%.
vain and stupid, but like there's a reason for it.
Yeah. So to wrap up my worst moment as a DM, I think ever. This just tops, period, letting all this happen. And truly, I'm not throwing shade at the player at this point. I know I'm putting a lot of this on their actions, but at any point in time, I could have jumped in as a DM and been like, please, I want you to understand that the consequence to this action is a lot bigger than you think it's going to be. And I didn't, because up to that point, I was very, like, hardline consequences to your actions. You know, you're
Yeah.
a free agent in a free world, and if something shitty happens, like somebody launching nukes, that's on you, dude.
So that leads to our our third Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, where we Doctor Strange that shit away.
Yeah, so then I get to the end of the session, and I'm like, all right, everybody, can everybody give me an insight check to see exactly what it is you guys should be doing as level 5 and level 7 characters?
We're so low.
I'm like, Nightlight, you go and find Superman and beg that bitch to come back into this fight and do something.
Superman's in a coma, by the way, guys.
Superman has hit her doomsday arc in this universe and is now beaten within an inch of her life and is in comatose state recovering. The way that we left off with her in that fight was no one knows if she's gonna recover from this. From that fucking ass beating she got in public.
Yeah.
She goes off and finds her, and then I'm like, okay, thing 1 and thing 2, which is the robot, and then the thing that made the robot, and also the person that gave the nukes to J. Edgar Hoover.
And also the robot has a nuke
Oh yeah, and the
That's a-
robot
that's a whole
canonically.
side
This is
note.
not a joke.
They're
Made a hydrogen bomb.
Their base is built on a hydrogen bomb, and that's just a thing.
So I'm like, you guys, your best action is going to be to go to DRT and turn the power on. Good luck with that. At this point, I was not thinking in like what is feasible. I'm thinking in what is the best use of these characters right now. Go to DRT, which is the most heavily defended and most fucking absolutely aware, on edge group of people in the whole city right now who've just been outed on live television as being terrorists. You guys should go and fix that. So then to the kid with wind powers, I'm like, you should go talk to your dad. Your dad's like actually really, really up there in terms of people that can do something about this situation. You should go make sure that he's on your side before the FBI tells him that you're the terrorist. So he goes off to do that.
And then
And
the
then
other
I
character.
tell Shadow Boy, I'm like, hey, all the hospitals, the things that you care about a lot, they've all lost power, which means ICU people, they're fucking dead. They're just dead. Period. And
God.
dead. So you should go there and try and help them because that's what it means to be a real hero. Save the people caught in the crossfire. We get about a quarter into our roles for this, and at this point, I'm like, cool. What if we just didn't? At this point, I am defeated. I don't know what to tell the players to do. Two of the two people that had to go and basically infiltrate DRT, which is on high alert at this point, maximum security. I shit you not, one of the players looks at me, he goes, there's no way we can do this, is there? And I said, not really. So they're like, spy movie, how do we get in? Underground. I'm like, good luck. I said, you know what, I'll come back to you guys. You sit there and talk. And at this point, they're like, there's no speaking because they both know there's no fucking way they're getting in there.
Yeah.
Not even close. There was one idea that I came up with in my head, but I was like, you know what? They don't deserve it. I'm not giving it to them. Because one of them is the person that
They're
brought
on
it upon themselves.
punishment.
Yeah.
I'm over there talking to Superman. I get a
And
gun pulled on me.
Superman's girlfriend pops up and goes, you say a word, fucking bullet in the back of your head, dude.
And she goes, "Why are you here?" And honestly, I don't know why. I just straight up was like,
She goes, the
Inside
inside
check."
check. The inside check brought me here.
I didn't know why. I was there. Like, legit, I didn't understand. It was just, I as a
Yeah.
player was so frazzled by everything that had happened. I could not come up with anything. I could not pick up on anything.
And I had so
So-
much prepared for that session and the session before, and even the session after, because I was like, I got to get you guys back on track to be like,
Fluffy.
like Young Justice, fucking Teen Titans level. Like that's
Yeah.
where we're going down.
Like-
I just gave you your Deadshot enemy. Like y'all are on
Yeah.
the road to like having a regular hero come up,
Yeah.
and then somebody said, "Nope." It just absolutely fucking delete the entire session.
It was like I made cute little Christmas minis for everyone. Like they were so cute. I made little Christmas comic book covers for everyone, and it was like them decorating a Christmas tree together and like having hot chocolate. And I was like, "Merry Christmas, everyone! This is
Yeah.
our little Christmas session. It's gonna be so cute and adorable because
And that's how it was gonna end too. It was gonna end with Christmas. No, it ended with the fucking nuclear holocaust.
Yeah, and then it was like, cool. Are we memory wiping everyone? Everyone, cool. And then it was like, cool.
Yeah.
The player who did it was like, I want to remember. He was like, I think I deserve
Yeah,
to
he
remember
goes,
as
"This is-
punishment.
This is my punishment. I said, no. You are not remembering your actions. That is unfair to everybody else at this table who is going to forget everything that happened.
The only person who
Your
remembers
penance at this
anything.
point is that you still don't have your powers back.
Yeah, my character has like a weird vibe about it, and I'm like, we could table that for later.
So now I have to go through and make a list of all the things that happened and didn't happen, and then basically info dump for the first half hour of our next session in fucking January about all the things that they did that didn't do.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my biggest failure as a DM ever. Thank you all for listening to this episode. We're going to go ahead and cut it here. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Table Talk. Hopefully we will have another one out for you guys over the Christmas and winter break while we are enjoying Florida.
We are going to Florida. We're going to Disney.
Anyways, sorry.
Okay,
That's like
calm down.
king of capitalism. That's like
I
capitalism's little
recognize.
fucking play toy, man.
I recognize.
Anyways,
but
goodbye.
rides are fun. Bye.